Watch this.
There's a lot that seems to be fair game these days in politics. So in order to be fair, it's that time of year for us to start fact-checking campaign ads. And we're starting with one you've probably seen on this channel. Idaho's largest state agency is getting a new leader after a rather controversial exit by the last one. That's not the only change to the governor's cabinet. Some familiar names are going to some different places. What if we told you the real ID deadline is officially 1 year out? You'd probably be thinking, we've heard that before. Yes, and you have, because we've been tracking it, and we're going to do it again. All right, so it is that time of year again, with political ads filling up your mailboxes and your airwaves. But one in particular has filled airtime both during and between our newscasts for months. So this is where we're going to bring in Andrew Bartline, because, Andrew, you looked into this, and this ad targets 3 Canyon County senators and legislators with blanket claims. All 3 are senators, as a matter of fact, excuse me.
Yep.
But with blanket claims that they're anti-police, right? And totally fine with a wide open southern border.
Yeah, kind of connecting those pieces together. If you don't support police, clearly you're happy with an open border. That's not really the case. Now, the names to our viewers should be common if you followed this legislative session: Senator Brian Lenny of Nampa, Senator Chris Trakel of Caldwell, and Senator Tammy Nichols of Middleton. The ad slams them for their no votes on 2 bills from the 2023 legislative session. And like any political ad, it dismisses some nuance. We'll fill in those gaps for you.
Brian Lenny, Tammy Nichols, and Chris Trakel. Their records are appalling. In the state legislature, they voted against supporting Idaho law enforcement.
They get to the claim quickly, and were kind enough to cite their sources. It takes issue with the trio's no votes on House Bill 222 and House Bill 351, seemingly bills for police. But starting with House Bill 222,
counseling services, a shuttle service, vigil and physical security. That's what this funding is for.
the bill's sponsor shows this isn't about police at all. It's actually about college kids.
That we support the University of Idaho.
And funding additional support services after the 2022 Moscow stabbings.
Because they've still kept that counseling in place. They've still provided some additional security.
And while none of the targeted trio spoke in the floor debate, political ally Senator Scott Herndon calls it an inflated cost.
The arguable actual security costs were far less than $1 million, and that's the reason for my nay vote today.
But yet, they still make the claim twice.
That's right. Lenny, Nichols, and Trakel voted against supporting our law enforcement.
The latter half comes from House Bill 351, which is closer to home.
Good Senators, this is a fiscal year 2024 original appropriation bill for the Department of Corrections.
The budget increase accounts for inflation, new food services, new clothes, and higher wages. None of the senators explained their no votes, but it's far from the following allegations.
While we face an open border crisis, cartels flood the border with fentanyl, and our communities face the threat of rising crime, Lenny, Nichols, and Trakel voted against supporting law enforcement? They aren't conservatives. It's time.
All three senators have called for closing the southern border for years.
Words have meaning, and we need to make sure that our words are clear.
And they often vote against memorials for not going far enough to call on federal action.
And all this will do is incentivize further waves of migrants at the border, when instead Congress should be focused on reducing the flow of illegal entry of persons and fentanyl. Like I said, it gets the problem right, it gets the solution wrong.
And so for that reason, I cannot support this memorial at this time.
There are pieces up to interpretation. If they voted against that IDOC budget because they wanted to cut IDOC officers' pay, then that claim could be true if you interpret it that way. But again, we don't exactly know why the individual senators voted the way on that second budget there. The motive of a no vote is often missed in election ads, which makes you think, who's making these?
The ad clearly labels Idaho Liberty PAC paid for the messaging, and the Liberty PAC is relatively new to the state on paper. It's just 2 years old. But in that time, it's grown to nearly $600,000. More than half of that money comes from the Idaho Victory Fund. They're a large donor who's given to established Republicans, including Secretary of State Phil McGrain, Senate Pro Tem Chuck Winder, and Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke. Interestingly enough, the Victory Fund also donated to Jeff Agenbrod, who Lenny unseated in 2022. But the election ad is disingenuous. It's maybe even fair to say the donors don't care about those 2 votes they used to slam Lenny, Nichols, and Treacle at all. Because at the exact same time, the Victory Fund donated to both Representative Ron Mendive and Representative Vito Barbieri. Barbieri was the only red light in the House on 351.
This question is, shall House Bill 222 pass the House?
And both turned down 222. And yet, not a peep from the PAC.
And just like we talked about yesterday with the Make Liberty Win PAC spreading some half-baked political shots at candidates, this is in the same vein. It's common to see this ahead of elections, contentious primary elections coming up. If we want to touch on Lenny and Eggenbrod, they have that rematch coming up, a lot of money going into that election. These are things that'll happen.
Yeah, these are things that happen. And we get this question all the time about, okay, we don't decide what ads get put on the air. This is how this works. We get this accused, you guys are doing this. And to say this disingenuous is not the same as our sales team going, well, okay, we'll take this ad, it's not offensive, we'll put it on the air. And it opens up the doors of equal opportunity for other candidates. Now, this is a candidate, or that's not a candidate issue, it's an issue, if I can phrase it that way.
That's how they separate out those different ads, candidate ad and issue ad.
But because they use a likeness of those senators, then it becomes a candidate thing. And so there's equal opportunity for somebody to come up and go, that's not correct. Just because it's disingenuous does not make it something that we are putting out that's technically, I don't know, offensive or slanderous.
And you can interpret things any way you want. So in that U of I funding for the services after the stabbings, part of that has to do with security on campus. Could you say that that's part of the law enforcement aspect? You can interpret it however you want.
You did reach out to Senator Lenny about this, or a couple of them, I assume.
Just Lenny.
Just Lenny.
And he was not interested in talking with us. He's the only number I actually had.
Okay. So he had his opportunity, but again, they're equal opportunity. There's something wrong with an ad you don't believe in, you have fair game to run one of their own. Is kind of how this thing plays out. Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, the leadership team in Idaho Governor Brad Little's cabinet is getting a shuffle. It's going to be a name we're used to seeing attached to financial numbers. Well, that name is about to take over the agency with a $5 billion budget. Chief Political Reporter Joe Paris joins us with details of this shakeup. Joe?
Brian, Governor Little's office is calling the move a quote-unquote major change for his senior staff in cabinet. Little's budget chief, Alex Adams, is set to take over as the new director of health and welfare. In doing so, Adams, who you can see here, he'll be in charge of Idaho's largest state agency. That agency hosts one of the biggest budget items in the state in terms of attention and resources. That's Medicaid. The program sits at about $4.7 billion, and that's something that lawmakers have drawn attention to in recent years. Mr. Adams has significant experience working with lawmakers and presenting in the legislature's budgeting committee, JFAC. Should set up an interesting dynamic on the Medicaid topic, but Adams has clearly earned Little's trust with the appointment. Adams helped thread the needle on the massive House Bill 521 legislation, which was Governor Little's signature school funding legislation from this past year that we covered at length. And Adams is also educated for the job. He earned a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of Toledo in Ohio and a Master of Public Health degree from Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health. In Adams' place as the administrator of the Department of Fiscal Management, you can call him Governor Little's budget chief, Lori Wolf will step into the position, and she has been on Little's staff for a long time as a director of operations since 2023. And what about Dean Cameron? Well, he was the interim director of the Department of Health and Welfare. He took over when Dave Jepson retired last year. And for Cameron, he will return to being director of the Department of Insurance. He was actually doing both for a time. And this will all formalize and happen on June 5th. That's when everyone will get their new movement and their new job titles. And Governor Little today gave a glowing endorsement for all the moves. So a big question had been who is going to lead the Department of Health and Welfare here in Idaho. It's an agency that has had a very fair share of controversy in recent years. It looks like Adams is a great fit. We will try to connect with him soon for an interview, Brian, but it's interesting in terms of the governor's cabinet and his senior staff. It is a large group of people, but when you have a person like Alex Adams moving from being the governor's budget chief to now working on the Department of Health and Welfare, it's a big change, and I'm interested to hear from the governor at some point what changes he's hoping that Alex Adams can accomplish there.
Well, maybe we can get those answers soon. Thank you very much, Joe. And that means in order to push through that goal of 500,000 star cards, the DMV is going to have to process 1,389, let me write that down for you, 1,389 a day, right there, with just 149 days left to do it. With 144 days left, removing weekends and holidays from the calendar between now and October 1st, ITD will have to issue more than 1,600 star cards a day. But to get everyone registered a year from now, the DMV is going to have to process about 1,500 of these per day. Okay, those were fun times, weren't they? We haven't done a star card or real ID update on the 208 since back in May of 2022, as you just saw, back when we were a year away from the Idaho deadline to start using them. Well, guess what? Here we are again because we are once again 1 year away from the star card deadline. So how did we get here? Well, you just saw a sample of that. How many star cards the DMV would have to issue per day in order to reach that goal that they set along the way, which has also changed over time, along with the deadline. This all started in Idaho in 2018, and by September of 2019, only 168,000 had been issued, star cards that is. Then in 2020, Idaho Transportation Department gave themselves a goal of getting 500,000 Idahoans a star card before the October 1st, 2020, issued by the Department of Homeland Security, that deadline. That was out of the 1 million plus, about 1.25 million back then, with drivers across the state of Idaho. Then the pandemic hit, and that deadline was pushed back not once, not twice, but 3 times. First to October of 2021, then to May of 2023. Idaho did increase its goal along the way to 700,000 real IDs issued by that moving target. Then in December of 2022, the DHS pushed the goalpost back even further from May 3rd, 2023 to May 7th, 2025, which is 365 days from today. Along the way, we went from, like I said, 168,000 to 293,000 to 465,000 to now 49% of licensed drivers in Idaho have been issued a star card. Okay, so what is a star card? If you've missed our regular updates and have no idea, the Real ID or star card is a new ID the DHS says will increase security across the country. Beginning a year from now, May 7th, 2025, you'll need that card to get on a plane, to enter a federal building, or visit a military base without having to bring along your passport or military ID. Okay, so to get a star card, you're going to need documents proving your identity. Social security number, you need 2 forms of proof of Idaho residency. Bring those along with you to the DMV, and you can find all that information on ITD's website. Okay, so let's do this again. If we are back to 100%, or if their goal is 100%, right? By May 7, 2025, that gives us 250 days left between now and then. That's minus weekends and 11 state holidays. So with now 1.4 million licensed drivers in Idaho and 49% already issued the star card, the DMV is going to have to, let's do this one again, 2,856 cards issued per day to get one to everyone before May 7th, 2025. And you thought the lines were long at the DMV already. North Idaho man accused of yelling racial slurs at a Utah women's basketball team. Well, he's going away with no charges. Brenda Rodriguez tells us why and other 208 tidbits in today's 411.
Zulema Pastenes testified in day 18 of Chad Daybell's triple murder trial. Chad is on trial for allegedly murdering Lori's children, JJ and Tylee, as well as his first wife, Tammy. Zulema was married to Lori Vallow Daybell's brother and was in Chad and Lori's inner circle. She said Chad told people that he was Jesus Christ's brother and he was the Holy Ghost in another life. Zulema said Alex always believed and did what Chad told him.
So one of the things that he said is, I think I'm being I'm going to be their fall guy.
Zulema told jurors she and several other women performed castings to try to get rid of evil spirits, demons, or zombies, and Chad would tell them whether those castings worked. If it was successful, a physical body would die. Chad deemed his wife, Tammy, Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow, JJ, and Tylee possessed. They are now dead. Court is back tomorrow.
For our players and staff to not feel safe in an NCAA tournament environment, it's messed up.
The Coeur d'Alene City Prosecutor's Office decided not to charge the man accused of yelling racial slurs at the Utah women's basketball team during the March Madness tournament this year. The team was so upset, the NCAA moved them from their hotel in Coeur d'Alene to a hotel in Spokane. The deputy city attorney says after weeks of investigating, there's not enough evidence to charge anyone in this case. The Pink Tree Swings are back in the Cherie Buckner Webb Park in downtown Boise. The swings were removed from the sculpture called the Gentle Breeze so that they could be reinforced to make them more durable. Now you can go swing under Gentle Breeze and enjoy the Gentle Breeze. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Brenda Rodriguez.
You know, we talked about moving big houses before, but what happens if that house doesn't want to move? John Miller shows us in today's 208 Redial. All right, this is the time when we ask for your comments, your questions, or even your concerns. All you got to do is text them to us at 208-321-5614. Include your name and the hashtag the 208. Remember, keep them clean, concise, and clever. That way, you have a better chance of seeing yours at the end of the show. We told you about historical homes being moved before here on the 208. One in Caldwell, another one in Boise several years ago, to make room or to just kind of put it in a place where it fits better, that kind of stuff. But what if someone trying to move a house and it just gets stuck? John Miller found out on this day 27 years ago. He shows us in today's 208 Redial.
If you look real close, you can see the ski poles still hanging in the porch of the house on the wheels in the middle of the construction zone. Lots of low-hanging power lines dropped the movers behind schedule, so the movers dropped the house here for the day.
So what's been the typical response?
Well, I think it's a little strange.
It's neat they can, salvage something like that.
I don't know. It's just like kind of wow.
I mean, everybody who comes by seems to be shaking their heads somewhat.
Right, it was kind of interesting last night. Most people are pretty fascinated by this one because of the size of it.
Dennis Torfin was fascinated to wake up and find suddenly he has a next door neighbor.
Yeah, they just moved in yesterday.
They aren't staying long, huh?
Well, I hope not.
So you got it, doors, spigots, Christmas lights and all, huh?
Yep, the whole deal.
Nothing's changed. I mean, it is intact.
Yep, it is intact. Right down to the furniture's inside, the refrigerator's in there, the washer, dryer, the whole bit.
Even the barn on the back.
And you don't have to move the animals, of course. So.
No, actually, but there is a cat inside the house, so we did
right
move
now.
Right now.
It won't leave.
Tried to catch it yesterday and couldn't do it, so I believe the cat's still in the house.
So the heck with it, it'll be fine, huh?
Should be all right. We put some food out, it'll be in good shape.
As will the house, hopefully, when it finds its new foundation about a mile up the road. Cat, Christmas lights, and all.
Oh, that's wonderful. What'll they think of next?
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Well, I wanted to show you the reservoirs, which they affectionately call the teacups, which you can find here, showing the picture that they have here from Arrow Rock Reservoir for the Boise River system over here to Anderson Ranch. And then when you come on down here, Anderson, I should say, and then you go on down here to Lucky Peak. So as you take a look at these, you can kind of see the system itself. It's 79% up here at Arrow Rock. It's 94%, so almost full here and almost full at Lucky Peak, which gives you the idea that since we've melted most of our snow in the mountains in the lower levels, now just the higher levels that could last still for quite some time, but they have to anticipate that more snow could come through. So you're going to be seeing melting down into some of these reservoirs. So we have to anticipate, of course, letting more water out down the Boise River, and there's still plenty of water where that comes from. It looks pretty good for this summer that is coming up. Now, also gardens, okay? So talking about gardens, average last frost is May 13th here in Boise, so that's coming up next week. And the way the forecast looks like it's going to end after tomorrow with these temperatures dropping down into the 30s. So you can see May 20th for Nampa, Emmett, May 16th, Jerome, May 27th, and Twin Falls at May 28th. Of course, some of those spots just a little bit later. Showing you this picture not for the traffic, but again, leaves are moving. We've got gusty winds that last at least through tomorrow, and then they start to die down on Thursday. Looks pretty good for this weekend. And when we talk about temperatures in the 80s, the last time we had 3 days, which goes back to last year, October 7th, October 8th, and October 9th, where we had temperatures in the 80s, and that was the last 3 days in the 80s. We've got a forecast of temperatures in the 80s over this weekend and into the first part of next week. So we've got some warm temperatures coming. It's been a long time in the making for that. So if you look at the temperatures for tonight, they will be dropping off once again. See most of these lows that will be getting down as low as 36, 37 degrees for tonight. And then when you look at the high temperatures and the temperature trend for the next couple of days, winds will still be there for tomorrow. They die down on Thursday. And as you notice, the temperatures will start going up. We're going to eventually have some sunshine, sunny days through Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This is clear through the weekend. So make your plans now. Temperatures are going to be up around 80 degrees or so. As you look at next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, temperatures will at least be in the mid to the upper 70s. So it looks like we're heading toward summer.
Several questions today and comments about the ads, the political ads that we've been running, and kind of what we did today on one that's been running on this station particularly. Sounds like we just can't believe the television ads that talk bad about others. I think this has been going on for a while, says Brian in Boise. I was just wondering if the ads are misleading, why air them? That's EB in Boise. We tried to explain that a little bit, but it's kind of like this thing where if you open the gate for one type of ad, then you have to allow all the ads in that race, whether it's a candidate, whether it's an issue. It just kind of opens it up. And this is how we make our money, by allowing ads to be run. And the FCC oversees these things and sets up rules to say, here's what you can, here's what you can't do. Censorship is not included in that. We're not allowed to censor ads, especially when it comes to candidates that are air on our channel. I hesitate Googling the groups paying for questionable political ads. I want to be informed, but then the algorithm gives me bunches of crazy groups in my newsfeed. Thanks for doing it for me, says Judy. Of course, that's what we want to do. I've had my star card so long, it now needs to be renewed. That changes the math. I hate math.